springtime is coming. I'm always wearing black or blue, or I need some color. I need some. Well, I had always a lipstick on, but I need some flowers. I need some. Springtime is here, and I'm so glad to have you here, Danny O'Shea.
Thank you.
Thank you
Sissy.
so much for making the time for me, for us.
Thank you.
It's very meaningful because I know how much you love this craft, and you're an actor's actor, and you know the game, you know the business. And when we can, Gloria, forget about me. I want to go back to him. If we can go to the video switcher, there you go. And then when you can, just give me. I'm directing my own show. I can't help it. I just can't. I just got to go to him. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you, thank you.
Sissy.
Gloria is, we're referring to Gloria because Gloria isn't, she's in the control room and she's making all the, she's coming here to get the lights done, to get the camera. We're supposed to have Gary Evans, but he's stuck in traffic. He just called me and I'm like, okay, we're going to make this happen, man. I cannot wait for you. We got it, you know.
Sure.
Some job to do. So let's talk about the craft, you, growing up, your background in acting.
Yeah. So I grew up in Long Island City, Queens.
Yes.
In a public housing project, the infamous Queensbridge Housing Projects. That's where I grew up. And I just became interested in acting in my late teens, my early 20s. And I did a little community theater. And I started studying at HB Studios with Herbert Berghoff. That's where I met Gary. And then
it's a good place, very good place.
It's a good place, yeah. And it was wonderful studying with Herbert. And Herbert had different classes. He was teaching at that time maybe 3 or 4 classes. He had one class which we used to call the Stars Kids class.
Like
where
that.
all
That sounds kind of
the
magical.
stars, yeah. You know, Lee Volman's daughter was in one of the classes, and Julie Andrews' daughter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we'd have one of those called the Star Kids class.
Right.
We weren't in that class. We were in another class on Tuesdays.
Right.
And it was just a wonderful class, you know, and we tackled a lot of different scenes, did a lot of stuff. I was very lucky. Very early on, I had a lot of good luck and good fortune.
Good fortune, that's the word.
Yeah, and just started landing work in feature films.
Which is amazing. Let's talk about that transition.
It is amazing.
Right? I mean, it's like, it's...
I went on a call.
Do you remember the first one?
Yeah. Oh, I remember it like it was yesterday. So I went on a call for just from backstage for some feature film. They were casting it up at Columbia University. And there were just, even when I went there, like a cattle call, hundreds of kids, hundreds of guys and gals. And
models and actors.
Models and actresses and stuff. And that's when they used, I don't know whether they used, you know, VHS or Betamax or whatever.
Right.
And they're taping you as, you know, for a minute or two.
Right.
They give you 2 or 3 lines for a minute or two.
Right.
And I kept getting called back. So a mutual friend of Gary and ours, he kept telling me to come back. He was saying, so I was like, no, I don't want to do this, because my girlfriend lived a couple of blocks from Columbia. So I said, no, I'm going to go over to my girlfriend. So he said, no, come, stay and hang out. And it was Clayton Brooks was this young man's name. And he wrote a little series called Taxi Cab Confessions. He was engaged to Gary's sister at one point.
Oh, God, it's a whole mix here. Okay.
Yeah, it's a whole mix.
Yes,
so about 20 years
you.
ago, he committed suicide. It's very tragic, very tragic. But back then, Clay and I were at this audition. He kept encouraging me to go and stuff like this. So I kept going. I went to the producer's loft downtown. The producer was Michael Hausman. He's still in the business.
Right.
Very successful producer, line producer for Milos Forman, for David Mamet.
Oh, yes.
So I got the job. I couldn't believe it. He called me. He said, you know, do you have an agent? If you don't have an agent, I'll get you an agent.
How wonderful. That's like...
Yeah.
Just like that.
Just like that. I had beaten out 800 contestants. And among them at that time, when you say beat them out, you know, it was just somebody that the directors sort of liked me or warmed up to me. The producers sort of warmed up to me because I was so green and fresh and just, you know, what did I know? I didn't, you know. So, you know, I beat out like Michael Madsen and Viggo Mortensen and all these guys as they were starting out, you know. The fellow, I forget his name now, you know, the tremendous actor who was playing MacGyver. You know,
Oh yeah, I remember him.
I
Yes.
wonder, yeah.
Right.
All those guys, you know. So just Lenny Van Dolheim, all these great actors. And I screen tested with Laura Dern for one
really?
audition.
How
Yeah.
wonderful is that?
Yeah.
Tell me about that experience.
She was maybe 19 or 18 or 19.
Yeah.
And she was just like a kid, you know. Of course, I was a big, oh my God, fan of Bruce Dern.
Yes,
And, you
everybody
know,
is a big fan of
Yeah, yeah.
Bruce Dern.
And her mother as well. So I was
Right.
just like, oh my God, this is fantastic. And she was just, you know, a regular girl. She was talking about getting married and having kids. She was like 19 years old. I
she's
can't
a
wait to have
kid.
kids and stuff. I was like, oh wow, this is weird, you know.
Yeah.
Little blonde thing. And she was very nice on it. Even then, you could see she was a tremendous actress. Just very there, very, you know, together.
powerful, very present,
Very
like,
present, yeah,
ooh.
exactly. Yeah. Even back then, you know. Just a kid, you know. Because there's no getting around talent. You can't that's what you learn in this business, right? You can't, you know, talent it is what it is.
It is what it is, man. You can't fake it until you make it.
You can't fake it.
Can you? I mean,
No.
honestly, you can't. You see so many people out there.
No. Can you learn, you know, I don't think people can learn acting. I really don't.
You
You can
don't
learn to
think so?
fake acting.
That's what I want to get into it. You see, this is now what getting into business, because now you and me, we're going to have a discussion, and this is what people want to hear, because everybody has a different take about actors
of course
and
they
acting.
do. It's subjective.
Yes, let's talk
It's
about
taste.
you, how you view acting, how you view the craft, based on your experience exclusively, what you learn, what you see in your friends, your experiences, your films.
Yeah.
What's acting for you? What is it, the craft?
Yeah, you know, acting is, you know, basically reacting under imaginary circumstances. You can say it's the famous, right,
Yes.
Sanford Meisner quote.
Right, right.
There's a lot of truth to that. But what makes up a good actor, I think, what makes up a good actor is imagination, and not so much imagination. This kind of imagination. Heady imagination is great too, but it's got that is more puts you in the arena of a writer, I think. But the imagination there's some of that comes into play too for an actor. But I think also emotional imagination, sensual imagination, that kind of stuff makes up an actor. Curiosity, tenacity.
Discipline,
You can't
humbleness,
discipline, willpower.
willpower.
That's again, we were talking beforehand about the parallels between boxing
And
and
acting.
acting. That willpower and that resolve. You can't buy resolve.
right.
You can get a great trainer, a boxing trainer,
Right.
But that trainer can't teach you resolve, willpower. They can't.
Right.
They can inspire you,
Sure.
but they can't transmit that to you. Unfortunately,
Right,
it's just
right. Interesting. I'm sorry that I want to suck your energy. I want to suck your answers, because I can see, because this is the first time that we meet. But you're very deep, and you know your craft. Certainly you do. But I was kind of wondering, you know, where you're coming from in terms of your acting. What it's like. Do you like to work much? Like, do you believe in the process? How do you view it? Do you consider yourself method? You're not that method. Do you? For every film, every play is a different experience, but how do you approach to the material
Yeah,
in
it's
terms of the work? How does it work for you?
Yeah.
It's different in every experience.
It's different in every experience. There
Okay.
are some similarities. There are definitely some similarities. So my approach or my exposure, how it was taught, it was very eclectic. So Herbert, if you will, taught or tried to teach basically the same sort of stuff that Sanford Meisner teaches. As a matter of fact, he used to refer some students to Sandy Meisner because he just didn't have, he knew what he wanted to elicit from the students, but
Right.
sometimes he didn't have the technical means of doing it. He didn't work out a system as to how to get that, whereas Sandy did. The same kind of thing of that inter-influence, the pinch and the ouch, that whole kind of thing,
Right.
that they teach. So of course I taught that, and then other people that I would study with over the years, whom I liked or whom I warmed up to: Sandy Dennis, Geraldine Page. You know,
she's amazing.
yeah,
It was amazing.
different people. You know,
Right.
I studied for a while with just recently for a while with Gary Swanson, who I'm
Right.
sure you know. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Actor
course.
Studio.
Yeah.
Yes.
Another woman who studied on the West Coast with what's the famous teacher who's the teacher of Jennifer Jason Leigh and Sean Penn.
Don't kill me.
With that woman, what's her name? She's another famous method actress from the West Coast, but I studied with one of her students, Carol Goodhart, at HB. And so it was a very eclectic approach. So basically, it all depends on how it hits me. It hits me here viscerally.
Right.
So sometimes, of course, you know, I'll use, you know, sense memory and these kinds of things, different techniques, different tools,
Right.
of course, that are shared with other people who are method actors.
Right. But you don't consider yourself a method actor?
Not particularly. I just consider myself, an actor.
An
and
actor.
It depends on what the
It depends with the work.
what the work and what the role calls for.
Right.
What the
Stage
work calls
work,
for.
film work. What do you enjoy the most doing?
That's
Different, very different mediums?
It's very different in very different mediums. But again, you know, when it gets down to it, acting is acting. Good acting is good acting.
Right. And everybody loves a great actor. Everybody loves
Yeah.
a good actor.
Yeah, yeah. There used to be this, you know, whole thing of, you know, there's such a big difference between the stage and the screen. There's really not that much difference. But you know, the fantastic thing about the theater is that you can continue to develop a character, develop relationships,
Right. Night after night.
get that connection.
Yes.
You know,
And feel the audience.
feel the audience, that other energy, that other character, that missing character from the play. You know, that's the sad state of affairs in the theater today, even the theater of the level of just, you know, black box showcase theater, if you will, you
Right.
know, and sometimes how the unions aren't particularly our friends sometimes, you know, which
Right.
I'm all pro-union. I belong to a lot of unions.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, but
but
that whole thing of, you know, the limited rehearsal time, the limited amount of performances and stuff.
Right.
So now you're rehearsing for 3 or 4 weeks,
Right,
and you're
and
going
maybe
into
even
this whole
sometimes even
thing.
less than
Sometimes
that.
even less than that.
even less.
And then sometimes now, because of economics,
Yeah.
you have maybe 6 performances,
Right.
4 performances,
4.
5 performances. It's
It's
like what is? It's
insane.
insane. It's crazy.
In all that work, all that process, all that work, and
Yeah.
just a few performances at the end. It's crazy.
And for what? And you know, I don't think that really benefits anybody.
Right.
It really doesn't.
This
So-
is an impossible business to get in, you think?
It's gotten a little harder. Again, you know, I was very lucky. I went from there, from doing that film, Flight of the Spruce Goose, which never got an American theatrical release. It got released in Europe.
In Europe.
Yeah. Karen Black was in that movie with
Karen
me.
Black.
Betsy Blair, Dennis Christopher, the tremendous character actor Jack Kehoe, Jennifer Runyon, the television actress, great gal. Then from there, I went on to do Streets of Gold. I was telling you about with Klaus Maria Brandauer, Wesley Snipes,
Wesley
Adrian
Snipes.
Pasdar. So the point that I'm trying to make with that, and Joe Roth, who became just one of the probably most powerful men in Hollywood at that time, that was his directorial debut.
Oh, huge.
Yeah, so it was big. This
Huge.
was like big stuff for, you know.
You remember
it's just
taking
very
that
lucky.
in? I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
it's such a wonderful thing.
But you know what? See, at that time, I didn't really